All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. SQL Dev DBA here, and that's what you get for complaining about ads. BKJ133. You get a sub. So hopefully you don't have to deal with those ads anymore. At least not for another month. But thanks for being here. Thanks for popping in and supporting us. Today is going to be sort of a tutorial slash exploration of LiveSQL. And for those of you who don't know what LiveSQL is, basically it's a tool that I use to explore Oracle and just test out Oracle stuff. I've always made the joke that Oracle is a notoriously expensive product, but the reality is that they do offer free tools for us developers to be able to take advantage of and just develop on them, just test things out as we need to. And one of those tools is called LiveSQL. Now it's part of like the Oracle, what they're called the Oracle Dev Gym, and I found myself referring to it so many times that I actually have a command on my stream called LiveSQL. And when I use that command, you can see right there on the right that it actually sends a link in my chat to livesql.oracle.com, which is basically just a platform that, again, allows you to practice Oracle SQL. They have data already populated for you, and they also allow you to populate data using SQL scripts. Now, I know you're wondering, how much is all this? Well, it's 100% free. There's also no install, and there are no downloads. All you have to do is create an Oracle account. I know I sound like an Oracle salesman, but again, most of my chats about Oracle have been about how expensive it is. Is it worth the money? Yeah, absolutely, because it's a really powerful database. Do most people use it to its full potential and get their money's worth? It depends. Maybe if you're like a banking industry, a video game industry company where you have lots of microtransactions and lots of data, then sure. But most of us with small tables, and I'm talking about like, a couple million rows or less, don't really need it to its full potential, but it's really, really good to have under your belt as a developer for experience. It's kind of like, I guess, buying a 787 Dreamliner to go check the mail. Most of us won't get the full potential, but for those who do need that capability, it is absolutely worth the money. And they also offer like lower tier products like Oracle Cloud, OCI, which are substantially less expensive. But I'm not here to talk to you about any of those products. I'm here to talk to you about Oracle's LiveSQL, which is, again, 100% free, no downloads, no installs. It just works. And I know that's like a weird saying, like don't ever say it just works, because you'll, especially live on stream, because it'll just stop working. But I haven't found any issues with this. It's just there, it works, and it allows you to learn Oracle SQL. And one of the things about Oracle SQL is that a lot of people don't know it. A lot of people don't know Oracle's nuances, Oracle's like fine tuning. And the people who do, they get to command a lot more money. So if you're looking to break into the world of data analytics or just databases, and you want to be able to stand out, Oracle, PL SQL, all of those are really good to practice. There's just not as many positions that do need them. But the ones that do, if you're that person that knows it, you have the upper hand here. And I'm telling you this as someone who used to run a team at an Oracle shop. We were a full Oracle shop and had SQL Server only for data warehousing. And I remember one position, I must have interviewed at least 150 candidates. And maybe 2 actually had Oracle experience, where all of them had it on their resume. Maybe like 2 could actually tell me the difference between using select into in Oracle versus using select into in SQL Server. And if you don't understand the nuance of that particular statement, I have a blog post on it on my website, sqldevdba.com. If you go there and you go to the blog section, I do have a full post on what the difference between select into in SQL Server and select into in Oracle is. It's part of a multi-part series, which ended up only having 2 parts because I got too busy with other stuff. Anyway, let's get into it. First, I'm going to do a quick tech check, and then we'll just get right into what I'm about to do, how you can apply it to your own practicing, and then we'll sort of just take it from there. It's going to be a pretty chill stream, hoping to go under the 2-hour mark, but you know, yesterday I did the same exact stream in Spanish. I'm not using the same data set, but I did the same exact stream in Spanish. It ended up being 3 hours, so we'll see where we get. All right, so quick tech check. Keychron K6? Is it the K6? I really don't know. I have way too many Keychrons. K6, yes, it is the K6. No number pad, but again, not a huge deal for me. I don't use it very much, and when I do need it, I do have like some small portable number pads. This one, I don't even know the color of the switches. Last time, I had Morse314 ask me the color of the switch, and I honestly didn't know. So I'm gonna try to see, using my handy dandy tool here, I'm gonna try to see what color these switches are. Hopefully I don't break anything. These are blues today. Clicky, clacky blues. They're fairly comfortable and have a lot of spring back, but they're very noisy. So Morse314 says, good morning. I was hoping you'd be here, so this wouldn't be in vain. Morse314, thanks for being here. Yeah, so it's quite comfortable. And then this one, the Keychron M7 mouse, it is a hilarious mouse because I've done this with 2 or 3 people already, where I asked them to hold like a heavy mouse or a normal mouse, I guess, like the Logitech MX Master. I have 2 MX Masters, a 2S and a 3S. I ask them to hold it for a little bit, move it around, and then I give them this. This looks like, if you're old enough to remember as a kid going to like Office Depot or Office Max or any office supply store. Thanks, Morse314. Thank you for posting that link. That's exactly the one I'm talking about. Select into. Oh, look, it's the second part. I guess the first part was something completely different, but related to that. So thanks very much for posting that link. That's exactly the one I'm talking about. So if you remember ever going to Office Depot, Office Max, or any furniture supply store and playing around with like their setups that they had of like these big wooden executive desks with like fake keyboards and fake mice, this is exactly what this would be, or it feels like, but it's super comfortable, it's super light, and it glides really, really well on any pad. So highly recommend that Keychron M7. Okay, so let's get right to it. See if we can hop into our Windows machine. Okay, so what we have here is essentially an ERD of one of the data sets that comes prepackaged with Oracle LiveSQL. LiveSQL is part of the dev gym, as I mentioned. To get there, again, you can just go to livesql.oracle.com, but I'll put the link in the chat again. And what you'll be met with is this page here. Now here, recently the team at LiveSQL, which is run by Jeff Smith, that Jeff Smith, literally his website is thatjeffsmith.com, I think. If you land here, you have 2 choices now. Before, since 2017 or so, you've only had 1 choice, and that's the one on the left, just LiveSQL. It runs on Oracle 19c in the cloud. Again, the entire thing is in the cloud, in your browser. There's no downloads, there's no installs. Recently, though, they released V2, which is LiveSQL 23 AI, or Oracle Database 23 AI. And so I've been exploring that route. I did run into some like very small login issues when I go to one and then try to go to the other one. There's a little bit of oddity there, but what I did to avoid that was just open the old version, quote unquote old version, the 19C version, in an in private window. So I say in private because I'm running on Edge here in my Windows setup, but you can do this in Safari. In fact, I often use Safari on my Mac. I use Safari on my iPad as well. So if you just have a tablet and an iPad, you can also run LiveSQL. And that's the great thing about this, right? A lot of the students that come to me say, hey, I actually don't have the resources I need. I can't just go buy a brand new computer to study databases or to practice SQL. What can I do? And I always point them to LiveSQL because there are no downloads. It's 100% free, and it comes even prepackaged with data, runs right on your browser. So that's what we're going to be using today. And as you can see here, let's just go ahead and hop into 23AI. Hopefully it doesn't give me any login errors. And there we are. I'm going to collapse this window here on the left. And you can see right here, there are a few schemas. Now, if you're new to Oracle, a schema is what you would normally think of in SQL Server as a database. So each schema in SQL Server has its own set of tables. And a database in Oracle is what you would call mostly like an instance in SQL Server. So an instance has multiple databases in SQL Server. Here, a database has multiple schemas in Oracle. And it's mostly done by users. So customer orders is actually a user in Oracle. Human resources is a user, and each user gets its own schema in Oracle. So the only thing I found is that I'm not able to interact with this database from outside of the browser. So all my work here has to be done on the browser. I'll try to contact the team to see if there's any way I can connect other stuff to it, like maybe Oracle SQL Developer or even Power BI. That would be pretty cool. But for now, I have not found a way to actually be able to interact with it outside of this browser. So that's the only limitation I see. But in reality, that's not much of a limitation in my eyes. That's pretty dang cool that they offer this service. Now, yesterday, we explored the customer orders schema/database in Spanish. And what I did first and foremost was create an ERD, an entity relationship diagram, that I could use to sort of find my way around this database, because I was brand new to it. I had barely looked at it before. I just knew it existed. I'd selected a few tables and that was it, but I didn't know the relationships between them. And so I don't want to do the same exact database again for the English version of this stream. I want it to be brand new to me. And so instead of doing the customer orders one, which again, I already did, and for those who are maybe looking for those or for that particular one, I'm going to go ahead and share this Google Drive link so that you can check it out. There's not anything like actually in Spanish in there. I just went ahead and did the exercise speaking in Spanish. So all the queries that I did are actually in English, and including the questions. But what I did was number one, which is what we're going to do. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at the database or schema. We're going to make an entity relationship diagram, an ERD for it. And then we're going to take the objects, formulate a question for ChatGPT so that it can give us some like sample interview questions at a junior level. And then we're just going to try to answer those questions using SQL inside the Oracle LiveSQL system. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is go ahead and open up 23AI, which we have here. And instead of the customer orders database, what we're going to do is actually select the human resources database. Now, as you can see, it has quite a few of them. This one is just called AV, AD, OL, OLYM, OE, etc. But if you go to the older version, you'll actually see that they have good names there. I guess the team just hasn't been able to give them the soft name or the friendly name just yet. So AD would be academic, AV is analytical views, CO is the customer orders, EMP and department is Scott. For those of you who remember the old Scott Tiger databases in Oracle used to come pre-installed, that's Scott Tiger. Human resources, Olympic data, that's what OLYM is, order entry, sales history, and world data. All of these are pre-packaged inside LiveSQL for you. So we're going to use those. The one that we're going to use is HR or human resources. Now you can see human resources has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tables. Countries, departments, employees, jobs, job history, locations, and regions. So if you're brand new to SQL in general, maybe data analysis in general, then you're going to want to start from sort of an easier place. And that's why I'm creating these ERDs here, is so that you can at least have a map to go by. If you are intermediate or senior level or trying to get into architecture more, then what I would recommend is that you try to map them out yourself and see how you compare to what I'm about to do. And even let me know if I did something wrong, right? This is my first time looking at this data. I'm doing this live, so I may make a mistake. I'm happy to get any feedback on anything that I should have reconsidered. We had one yesterday, for example, where the organization of this database was such where a customer could have 0 shipments technically. So this red right here, it was me asking, is it possible for a customer to have 0 shipments when they place orders? And I found that to be kind of true, because one of the stores, if you look here, there's a stores data set. One of the stores was online. It was called online, which meant it's possible that there were digital items being purchased, and digital items require no shipment. So unless there was like a digital shipment event, then it's possible that customers could have orders with 0 shipments. And that's the type of nuanced stuff that we want to look for when we're creating these ERDs. All right, so let's get to it. What we're going to do is we are going to run describe commands on each of these tables, and then we'll go ahead and formulate an ERD using the table information. So let me just go ahead and create another page here in LucidChart. And for those of you who are not familiar with LucidChart, do I have a shortcut for LucidChart? Nah, I don't. If you go to lucidchart.com, it's basically a free tool that allows you to create lots of diagrams, whether they're flow diagrams, application diagrams, Kanban boards, ERDs like we're doing here. They have lots of cool templates, and it's free to a certain extent. I try to only use free tools here on my channel. So it's free to a certain extent. I think you can have about 40 objects on a screen or on a canvas before it starts to charge you or tell you, hey, you have to pay more. I don't know what that number is now. It's been a while since I checked. So we're gonna name this page ESP down here at the bottom, ESP customer order. And here we'll create a brand new page and we'll call it ENG human resources. And now what we're going to do is just use the same template that we were using yesterday. And I believe the template gallery is right here. I'm just going to search for template ERD. And I always like to use the crow's foot. And this is our template right here. So we can get started right now. All right, so what I'm going to do is sort of delete a couple things here. I don't need these crow's feet already here. I just need one sample table of each color, perhaps. I don't need this legend, but you're welcome to keep it on your side. What I'm going to do is, again, go back over here to LiveSQL and describe each object. Now, the describe command in Oracle, what it does is just give you output of something that would be similar to a create statement anywhere else. And so if I just describe, actually, I don't even have to do that. I can just right click on countries and just say describe, and it'll pop a query over there for me. Now to run this query, you can just hold, even here, even on the browser, you can do the same thing that you can do in SQL Developer and in Toad, which is hold Control and just hit enter on your keyboard. And now you have the describe output. So I'm just going to copy this describe output down here, and I'm going to bring it over to our ERD. I'm just going to paste this in as a text box. And here at the top, I'm just going to say this table is, I don't even remember what it was anymore. What is it? Countries. I knew that. All right. And I'll just name this up here hr.countries. Now, here I have a choice. I can either just start creating them now, or I can just bring everything over and do it that way. I'm going to try just creating everything as I paste it. So this would be hr.countries. And as you can see, this table here that I have, or this entity, as LucidChart calls it, because that's what it is, has a few options. You can either have these two columns here, which is just the name of the column and the data type, or you can have something like this, which is the key indicator of the column and the name with no data type, or you can have this one here, which is the key, the name, and the data type. And then there's one more, which is just the name. Now, it depends on the extent to which you want to do this. In my standard ERDs, when I'm planning, I tend to just use just the name. If I'm just like conceptualizing something, and the data type is sort of implied. But when I'm already documenting an existing database, or when I'm documenting an already existing database, I try to be as detailed as possible, and usually that ends up being this one here without the keys. I'm not a huge fan of foreign keys. I'm a big fan of primary keys, but I'm not a huge fan of using foreign keys for data integrity. I'd rather put that into database logic, but that's just my opinion. There's many other opinions that are completely different from that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and document the countries table. First, I'm going to start with country ID, which is our first column, and that is a char2. Country name is a varchar2 or varchar2. And it's a varchar2 data type with, is that 50 or 60? Let me double check. 60. So 60, and that 60 is just the length, the maximum length that fits there, which is very surprising for a country name. I guess this database doesn't have anything bigger than 60, and I guess there's no countries that have more than 60 characters. So now that I think about it, it's not very ridiculous. Okay, so HR countries. Let's see. I need to close this guy so it doesn't get in the way. HR departments, I'm going to go ahead and describe that as well. And here we are with departments. Let's see, right here. I want to make sure that I have hr.departments up here. Great. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this and paste it right here below it. And this is going to be HR departments. All right, now the first column is department ID. And that is I'm going to have to move these a little bit closer because that bar keeps opening up here on the left. All right, let's try that. There we go. This is a number that allows 4 digits. And department name is a varchar2 with 30 characters allowed. Manager ID, which is a number 6. This looks like an employee number. And now it looks like we ran out of columns because we have 4 here and we only have 3. I'm just going to go here on the right and just add one more column, and there it is. So I have location ID and number 4. This looks like just an identifier again, right? It's not an actual location, it's just an identifier. So I'm starting to think that just like yesterday's, which is the customer order, that this is sort of organized in a data warehouse fashion, where there's one sort of event table or one principal table, and then everything sort of branches off from that. Now, if it was a perfect star, it would be a star, right? Star schema. But when they go off like this, it's more commonly referred to as a snowflake because each one might be different. So it sort of breaks away from that. In this case, we had orders, then orders at level 2, tables that were directly related to orders. We had customers, order items in stores, and then tables that were sort of related to level 2. We had shipments and products, but there was one special one that was inventory, and it was related to both something at level 2 and something at level 3. So I just sort of expanded level 3 to fit inventory because it had sort of a dual relationship there, or a dual level relationship. So we might find something like that here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just delete this one. We need the space. And let's go to our next table. Our next table is employees. So we'll go ahead and describe that. Ooh, this one's a big one. Makes sense though. Makes sense that it's a pretty big one. It's about our employees. So first we have employee ID. So let me just go ahead and copy that right here and say employees here. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, Twitch folks, I'm so sorry you can't skip ahead. But if you're watching this on YouTube and you're sort of not interested in this process here, that's quite okay. It's usually not something that junior analysts do after they're in school. I've seen this a lot when you're going to school for it, but usually organizations, when you start as a junior analyst, they don't have you do relationship diagrams like this. This is usually more intermediate, advanced, and maybe data architect type stuff. It's something I did a lot when I had a role as a data architect, and still in my role as a data architect, even though I'm a manager of a team, I also play the data architect role. And so that it's something I do now more. But it is a really good way to document your data strategies and your overall just data projects. This is something that I would look for in portfolios as a hiring manager. If someone presents me with something like this, saying, hey, here's the layout that I created for a database that I did X and Y, and they can speak to it in their interview. If someone presents me with Tableau or Power BI projects that they've done from data projects, that's great as well. I have to be completely honest because I've answered this the same way on Reddit when I've answered this question. As a hiring manager, I am not necessarily interested in seeing your GitHub profile that only has SQL code. If all you have is a bunch of SQL, it's not really something I'm interested in, just because that SQL could have been anyone's. It might be Stack Overflow SQL that you just kind of put together. I'll look at it, of course, because I'm really interested to see what each candidate brings to the table, but I don't even like looking at my own SQL. Like, unless you have something tangible for me to look at, I have to look at all the code that you have. It's not going to be a good ride. What I'll end up doing is just picking your SQL apart and going, why did you use this? Why did you use this? Why did you use this? Instead of being able to focus on the bigger picture, which is you use SQL to move data around. We just had a stream on ETL and how to use ETL, which, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's probably going to be up here in the link because I've probably posted it by the time you see this. So we just had a stream on ETL, and that whole flow I was documenting in LucidChart. So I want to see stuff like that. I'm not hugely interested in just looking at thousands of lines of code. I don't even like looking at my own. All right, so we have HR employees. We have an employee ID. That is a number 6. We have a first name. That is a varchar2 of 20 characters. We have a last name. And that is a varchar2 of 25. We have an email address. varchar2 of 25. That I will say is a little risky. I don't think I would necessarily do these first last names and email to be this small, but especially the email address. But again, this is sample controlled data by the Oracle LiveSQL team, so of course they have data that fits this model. Phone number, and that's also a varchar2 of 20. We have a hire date, which is just a date. Now, if you're watching from SQL Server land, a date in Oracle includes time. It includes time down to the seconds. So this is not just a date. In Oracle, a date allows time as well. There's additional date types like timestamp, and those allow down to like, I think the nanosecond, 9, or maybe the microsecond, which is 6. So just know that it says date here, but it's actually date and time. So it would be very similar to like a date time on the SQL Server side. Okay, we have job ID, which is varchar2 of 10 characters. We have salary, which is a number 82. Now, again, you might see number here, which normally would represent like a whole number, like an integer or something. This number here, especially being 82, would be considered a decimal in SQL Server land. 8 digits total, 2 after the decimal point. That's what this number 82 means. Commission percentage. That sounds like a fun column. Sounds like these are salespeople and they're getting paid. All right, we're doing manager ID, which is number 6. Oh, that's not how you write parentheses, is it? I just wrote 96 there. Number 6, and we have department ID, which is number 4. Now, immediately after seeing this, now I'm like, my curious mind goes, I wonder if there's any employees where their department is different than the manager's department. Like, that's normally just curiosity that I look at. So that is probably something I'd want to investigate just to see if it's true. Because normally you'd say, well, we'll just use the manager's department and that's the department of the employee, but there may be some weird cases in which the manager and the employee are different departments. So what I'm going to do is just a quick post-it note here. I'm just going to add a quick post-it note. Let's see how I can do that. There it is right here. And I would say something like investigate. Are there any employees that have a different department than their manager? And this would be a good interview question, if I'm honest. If I were to set this data up, which again, I don't. And one other important thing, I think most of these schemas are read-only as far as the schema goes, but I think you may be able to update the tables themselves or insert into the tables. If not, you can always just write the data over to your schema, which you do have full access to, and use that instead. Like update, insert the records there instead if you wish. Okay, so let's get back to employees. Are we done with it? Yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 columns. Is that what we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. And again, if this doesn't interest you, if you're on YouTube, there's chapters all along right here. You can feel free to skip to it, and the finished product will be in Google Drive, just like I posted earlier. earlier in the stream. I'll post a link to it. It'll be in the description over here if you're on YouTube. Okay. Oh, did I get any requests to share it? That's one thing I have to make sure of. Is that even though I give you the link, I still have to share it. Nope. Looks like we're good. Okay, cool. I'll just make sure I try to keep an eye out if that's the case. All right, great. Let's move on to the next table, which is jobs. We are halfway there. So we're going to run jobs using Control Enter. And now, you know what? Let's try the other approach, which is just describing the rest of the 4. So we're going to describe, we already described jobs. It's right here, job ID, job title. We're going to describe job history. We'll describe locations, and we'll describe regions. Let's just see if we can speed things up a little bit, right? We go all the way to job up here, and then we're going to go back and see if we can paste that here. Yep, looks like we can. So now all I need to do is sort of do a shift enter here and say hr.job for this first one. For this, okay, for the second one, is it not going to let me do stuff? This is going to be weird, isn't it? That's what I get for trying to save time, and instead I'm just wasting it. Okay, I think this works. What is this, employee? No, it can't be employee. We already, job history. Ooh, that's an interesting one. hr.job history. This one might throw me for a loop here. Job history. I can smell it. Locations and regions. So this one is locations. I'll just say hr.locations and hr.regions. There we go. Now let's see if I can sort of remove some of this extra space. Not like that. There we go, like this. And like this. And hopefully that cuts down on pretty much everything. Let's see if I can just shrink this a little bit. Is that it? Just region and region name? Yep. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, great. So let's see if we can just push this up here and just keep going. All right, hr.employees is a bit too big. So I'm just going to copy hr.departments and just keep going with hr.job. hr.job. That is the job ID. There we go. Then we have a varchar2 of 10. Job title is a varchar2 of 35. Min salary, ooh, which is a number of 6. And max salary, which is a number 6. That's an interesting one. Min and max salary depending on the job title. Okay, so next table is hr.job history. And here it looks like it's by employee ID. So we're going to have links to employee ID, to job ID, and to department ID. So here we have employee ID, which is a number 6. We have start date, which is a date. We have min salary, end date. End date, which is again a date. Job ID, which is a number, it's a varchar2. Varchar2 of 10. And we need one more field, so we'll just insert it there. And department ID. I wonder if the same job can be in multiple departments, and that's why there's a mix there. Number 4, it seems like that's the case, right? Seems like the same job can be in a different department. So that's an interesting one. All right, let's move it along with locations. We have hr.locations. location ID, which is a number 4. We have street address, which is a varchar 2 of 40 characters. Postal code. Ooh, this is a good postal code. Good postal code data type. Why? Because around the world, if you're watching from the US, actually, if you're watching from the US, you still need to be using varchar as postal codes, and we'll get into why in a second. But outside of the US, postal codes have letters in them. Like, that's just a normal thing. So if you just have a whole number as a postal code, you're gonna have a bad time. Data's gonna error out almost immediately. And even if you're in the US, there are many postal codes. I come from an island that has basically all 00, like 2 leading zeros in the postal code. And so and even in the northeastern US, there's 007, 008, 009. I think military office boxes and military like AFO and all those, some of those have 00s in the postal codes as well. So make sure you are using characters. And I know you could say like, oh, well, if they just have leading zeros, then the postal code will just be like 953. And the reality is that's not the case. Websites error out all the time when I'm trying to put postal codes from where I'm from in Puerto Rico. All of them are some websites error out, and we have to find other ways to get our postal codes in there. So please make sure you use varchar in your postal codes and allow leading zeros and allow letters, because the rest of the world needs to be able to use. You want your company to go worldwide, don't you? Use varchar. All right. City. Varchar 2. 30. State. State and province. Varchar 2. 25. Again, I see that as a little bit small, but I'm not complaining. This data set is completely free. I would suggest something bigger than that if you're creating your own project. Country ID is a char 2, I guess you could say. Okay. Now, are we done? No, regions. One more, and we're almost done, folks. We're almost done with this diagram. We're not almost done. I don't know if that's a spoiler alert, but we're definitely not almost done. Region ID is a number, no indicator of how big, and region name is a varchar 2 of 25. All right. So we don't need any of these. You can either just right click and delete them. What I prefer to do is just shrink the number of fields down to 2, and we're good to go here. Okay, so we have all of our tables, but now it's time to create connections. Again, what I have here is a full map, and this diagram started as just a vertical layout with no connections at all, but then by the end we had this. So let's try to see if we can do that. And first, I'm going to do a quick ad check to make sure we don't need to run ads, because I want everyone to be able to see everything. So during ads, all I do is play GeoGuessr instead. So I think we're okay here. We have about 15 minutes before it starts yelling at me to do ads. All right, so just a quick note here. This is a diagram that we created on another stream where basically I just went through what my data teams have looked like over the years and all of the different roles that are on data teams, from data architect, database administrator, data analyst, data engineers, business intelligence analyst, data scientist, and then the different managerial roles that there are as well. Maybe we also quickly discussed like where you would come from to start as a data analyst or start as anything in data. And usually we get folks from the support team, like help desk teams, come over. Sometimes it'll be a finance or accounting person as well. That's another option. But this would, again, this, I'm not saying this is how all data teams look like. Sometimes 2 or more of these separate roles are actually one person. In fact, in a lot of cases, that's how it is. So this is something very interesting that we discussed, and it does apply. Like what we're doing today does apply to maybe a database administrator, maybe a data analyst, data engineer, business intelligence analyst who are looking to break into data analysis or data engineering instead, or just expand into that world, would also probably use this. Okay, so let's hop back into our HR diagram, and what we're going to do is just start off with jobs and employees. I think all this data that you see here, the departments, the jobs, the job history, the locations, it's all about the employee, maybe the job as well. So let's just start with employees being on the far left, and then let's see where we go from there. So the employee is what I would call the fact table, the central principal table, the event table, but the reality is there's no event here. Maybe job history is an event, but I'm not sure if this data warehouse is laid out to where the only time there is a history record is when something about either the employee ID, the job ID, or the department ID changes. Sometimes that's the only time that you'll see history, is when something about the principal table changes. And if you're interested in sort of the semantics around that, you can check out a source that I've always recommended, which is Kimball's Data Warehouse Toolkit. If you just search for Kimball Data Warehouse or Kimball Data Warehouse Toolkit, I guess with Bing, I'm going to have to be a bit more specific. You'll see quite a few available options here. My favorite is going to be the digital version, just because it allows me to read on my iPad and it's a lot cheaper. I also, is this camera still working? Yeah, look, it didn't freeze. All I had to do was say, hey, I'm going to buy a new camera to replace that camera there. And since then, it's been perfect. It hasn't had any issues whatsoever. So top tip from me, if you're looking to replace an electronic, or maybe not, just tell it or say within its vicinity that you're going to replace it. And suddenly, it's going to be perfect again. Best Buy hates this one trick. Okay, so if you go to anywhere where Data Warehouse Toolkit, you should be able to pick up either a physical copy or a digital copy. I'm sure they're both fantastic because I've read both versions technically. So yeah, highly recommend this book, and the entire philosophy around Kimball is great. It's made me a much better engineer slash developer slash architect. I don't know what I am anymore. I'm just clicking around, aren't I? Okay, here. So if we go to employees, then we have things about the employee, like the department. Now, since department is all the way at the bottom, I'm going to try to put this table sort of like down here instead, and maybe move job up just so that there'll be fewer line jumps. And I'll show you what line jumps are in LucidChart in a few, but my goal is to make as few of these. Where is it? I keep going to a different tab, but it's really a different tab in LucidChart. I try to have as few of these line jumps as possible, or these line like crossings or intersections. And when I do, I use the concept of line jumps, which just has this right here, so you can keep following the path. Okay, so let's connect employee to job. Now, it is pretty well known that one employee will have one job. There may be like edge cases where a chief or an executive will have multiple, but they'll usually, what HR will usually do is do something like, COO/CIO, and that'll be an actual job title, and that'll be where the record is. Otherwise, if you have a one-to-many between employees and jobs, that's going to be a little bit weird. So as you can see, this relationship defaulted to one-to-many. I'm going to go ahead and switch it to one-to-one. So one employee can only have one job within this company. Now, as far as department goes, again, it's going to be very difficult for an employee to belong to multiple departments. If you're curious about it, you can explore the data yourself and see if there's any cases in which one employee has multiple departments, or one employee has multiple jobs. We might do that. We might do that a little bit later. That may be something I can investigate as well here, right? So we'll just go from department ID here to department ID. And again, one employee will have one department. So there we go. And then here's an interesting one, the manager ID. Now, if you look, there is no manager table. And let me make sure we have all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because there's countries hidden away up there. There's only one table that has the manager ID. So what would we do to get information about the manager? Well, I'm willing to bet, because I've seen this happen all the time, it's the common way to do it. I'm willing to bet the manager ID is an employee ID. So what we would actually have is a manager ID that circles back to employee ID. Again, a manager ID that you would circle back to employee ID. And I'm going to try to make this one dotted, or I guess I dotted the wrong table or the wrong object, but I'm going to try to make this one dotted so that it doesn't cause too much interruption. But the other reason it would be dotted is if for some reason an employee has two managers. That's where the term dotted line kind of comes from, is sort of a sometimes this other manager, but this is their primary manager. So I try to keep with the dotted line sort of aspect here. Okay, so we have departments, and we have an employee department to an employee department. Now, the weird thing is that there's also a manager ID here. So each employee might have another manager. So this would be the manager of that department, whereas this is the employee's manager. So this one, same thing. It's going to have a self connector as well. And you have the option of just joining it right here, or you can just make it its own thing, but then it starts to get a little bit messy. Maybe you could have this one be smaller and this one be sort of out here. But the reality is they're both connected to the same place. It's pretty obvious. So I try to keep these roughly connected at one point. So let me go ahead and make the dotted line here again, just so we don't interrupt anything. That looks like a horrible dotted line. So let me try that again. Is it like this? No, it's not. It's just not going to sync up, is it? I don't even remember which one I used for this one. So let me just go ahead and switch this guy like that. Did they sync up? Kind of. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. Okay, so we have employees. They have a manager ID, and that manager ID has an employee record, and that manager ID has an employee record, and that manager ID has an employee record, until you get to the top where it's one of two scenarios. Either the employee is their own manager, or the manager ID is blank. I'm going to go check in on ads again and make sure. Yeah, we're getting to the point where it's going to start yelling at me for ads. So we did the employee manager relationship connection. And that's solid. We're going to take a quick ad break, and then we are going to tackle the rest of these tables here, and then we'll start forming up some SQLs. So if you're subscribed, you can stay right here, because we're going to go play some GeoGuessr in a second. And then when the folks from ad break come back, then we will go ahead and continue with this project. All right, so let me set up ads, make sure it works, and I will see the rest of you folks quite soon. Morse314 says, don't trust my suggestions. Yes, we will. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. Yesterday we did pretty well. Yesterday we did pretty well. So I'm going to try to see if I can not embarrass myself. I usually do. Okay, let's do city squares. I like those. And we are driving on the right. We're driving on the right, which is, oh, are we driving on the right? Okay, school children, nuts for nuts, Banco de Chile. Banco de Chile. Okay, so we are in Chile. And let's see where in Chile we are. Chile is a really, really long country. I'm gonna go with Santiago just because that's the easiest one. But let's see if we can find any more clues here. Las Bahías is a is it a bus line or is it a destination? Let's see if we can find Las Bahías somewhere around here. San Antonio. Nope. Lampa, La Solar. Ooh, it might be in a different town. We're just gonna go with Santiago because otherwise it would be rough, I think. Ooh, yeah, no. Concepcion. So it was definitely a different city, different major city. We'll go with city squares again. And it's dark. It's completely dark. Morse314 says, honestly, I have you in the background, so I feel like I'm around other related co-workers since I'm fully remote. That is my goal, Morse314. That's exactly my goal, is just to be sort of a screensaver background, like co-worker. I started doing this because I needed one. I work fully remote as well. I've been remote for almost 5 years now, so I know the feeling. And that's what I try to be, is just a coworker. Yulcher says Russia UFA Kosmonotov 13. This right here, fantastic, Yulcher. Thank you. Morse314 says you do have valuable things to teach. I appreciate it. But my main goal is just to be, I don't get me wrong, teaching for YouTube and stuff like that. But for the Twitch folks, I just want you all to be able to ask questions if you need to. I'm gonna go with Yulcher's suggestion here for Russia. I don't know where any of that other stuff is, Yulcher, so I apologize. But it's very, very cool. UFA. I have no idea where UFA is. I'm gonna place a beacon there just so I have one. I'm gonna. Nope. I'm so sorry. I'm like looking for words that match the words that you said. Yulcher, just in case, because I have no idea where I am. Russia is so insanely huge that it's very hard to pick out anything else. But I hope I do not offend you, Yulcher, but I'm just gonna go with Moscow because I don't know anything else. Okay, writer. Yulcher says writer Kazan. Okay, Kazan right here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit and maybe go to like the city center and see if there's anything. I'm running out of time. I'm so sorry. Morse314 says any signs. That's a good point. I don't see any, but I do see a Harder's office building. So I'm thinking it's somewhere around here. I'm just going to go for it because I have 30 seconds. So I apologize. Oh, Yulcher says, no, UF is a city. And we're in Australia. I'm so sorry, Yulcher. I took it as you were trying to tell me where we were in GeoGuessr. Morse314 F, I think we completely bombed that one, or I did. It's not your account, anyone. You don't have to worry about your account. Oh, are we back from ads? I'm so sorry. We're back from ads. We're gonna go ahead and just play one more round, just because I want to see if I can get some redemption there. And okay, where are we? Where I recognize this tower. Is that India? No. It almost seem. Wait, there's a lot of flags here. That is the Indian flag, I want to say, because it has the circle in the middle. Is this United Nations? Why is there so many flags here? It's a medical center and an arcade. That's a pretty cool like setup there. What does that say? Chess Genesis Championship? Oh my god, where are we? What side of the road are we driving on? Okay, we're driving on the right side. Okay. These characters, this is giving me South Korea vibes. But again, I'm very hesitant when it comes to this stuff. I don't see any indicators here. I don't see any indicators. Let's see. Do I have anything? Okay, I have 1.5 minutes. Oh, what's this sign? That's just an ad, it looks like. Lipo Limited or something like that. Oh, what's this? Central Park. I had South Korea the other day and I missed it. And I just have this. I have a cell tree on. No indicators whatsoever. At least not. I'm terrible at GeoGuessr, so of course there's no indicators whatsoever. I'm gonna go with South Korea just because I missed that opportunity last time. Morster14 says, "What is that Oracle? Yeah, that building. Is that what you're talking about? This one, Oracle or Orakai. I'm not sure which one is which, but these flags are a little deceiving here. I could have sworn I was just looking at one flag, and it turns out I was looking at all of them. So I'm just gonna go with Seoul. Yep. Oh well, no, sorry. At least we got the country, and that's what. yeah. Morster14 says Korea. Yep. That's what I was aiming towards as well, and I'm glad I at least got the same country. It looks like we are 30 kilometers away, and I will take that. And let's go back and get our work done. Okay. So we have our employees, their jobs, and their departments. Now, departments has a location ID. So why don't we just start with locations down here and just bring that up to meet our departments right next to it. And you can already see a sort of level 1, level 2, level 3 developing here. So that's really important for me, is to understand what levels we're working with here. So you can see also that countries has a country ID and locations also has a country ID. So countries is at level 4 here. Countries would be at level 4. Then we have job history. Job history relates to both employee to 3 tables: job history, employee ID, job ID, and department ID. So job history would sort of, and here's where things get interesting. I'm going to go ahead and sort of move these tables here down a bit, because job history would technically go like somewhere here. Like it relates to employees and jobs and departments. So let's go ahead and link up job history first. So what I'm going to do is take employee ID, and I'm going to designate that one employee can have one or many job history records. Now, this is where things will start to get complicated. And again, unless you look at the data itself, it's very difficult to have this determination or make this determination. But an employee can have one job history record or many job history records if they change positions within a company, if they've gotten promoted or they've done a lateral promotion or something like that. However, again, if we go back to what I was talking about earlier, there's a possibility that an employee has zero job history, and that's only if the job history table gets populated when there is a change. If the only time job history is populated is when there's a change, then an employee can technically have zero job history records. But a common way I've seen it done, and a common way that I've done it, depending on the architecture that I've designed at the time, is as soon as there's a record created for an employee and a job, I also create a history record with a start date and a null termination date, or a termination date if it's not null. Let's check this one. Is it not null? Job history. If it's not null, which it is not null right here, means it does not allow nulls. So, does anyone want to take a guess as to what date we would populate here in the end date for employees that are still active? I'll wait a little bit. This answer will surprise you, right? I'm supposed to say that on YouTube for the YouTube people when they watch this, because it means you're still gonna keep watching. You don't have to keep watching. Hey, if you're on Twitch, Bob Ross is probably on. Shout out to Bob Ross if you want to watch Bob Ross instead. Okay, so for job history, if there is an end date column and it is not null, a date I would use is usually 12/31 or December 31st of whatever the maximum year it allows me to use is. In most cases, you'll see either 12/31 $29.99 or 12/31 $99.99. Some of them default to that. I joke and say at least 2 years after I plan to retire, because I'm not going to care about it then anyway. I'll be retired. But you want to do something, seemingly outrageous, like 12/31 $99.99 if it allows it, or 12/31 $29.99. So that's one hint I can give. Anyway, for the job history, it links to employee ID, so that can be one or many, or technically zero or many. It can also be zero or many, which is this one, but I'm just going to go ahead and add one or many, assuming, which I know what they say about assuming, you don't have to tell me, but assuming that there's at least one record per employee as soon as they start with the company. Okay, and then the next one is job. So we're going to relate it to job. Here's job ID. I'm going to go ahead and move it down here, or link it down here. Now you can start to see that these guys are going to cross, and that's kind of annoying. But I have line jumps turned on, and if you don't see this, if you're doing this and you don't see this, just go to document settings by right clicking anywhere on the canvas, then go to lines, and you can say show line jumps, and there we are. Now we have line jumps here. You can also color these differently, and that's going to be fine too, just to show the distinct relationships between things. Okay, so we have the job ID, we have the job history, department ID. That's the next one that we need to link up, is the department ID. So one department technically can link to the job history, but it's usually not 100% necessary. This type of relationship here would normally be from department ID in job history to the department's table to sort of see information about the department, right? I would normally join from job history over to departments. But there's a certain case where, for some reason, you may want to know for each department how much history does it have? How many, different employees have worked for it or something? And if that's the case, then yeah, absolutely, you can link it this way instead. So the link is established regardless. I'm sort of going to leave it dotted here. Even though I didn't mean to leave it dotted, I'm going to go ahead and leave it dotted just because it's a bit of an odd relationship between job history and departments. Okay, and that's job history sorted out. So let's look at locations. We have from the departments, we have a location ID that can go to locations. Now, here's where I was about to do this with job history, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it with departments and show you that I would not do it with job history. So even though the ordinal value of departments has department ID being the first column, department name being the second, manager ID and location ID being the fourth, technically speaking in this diagram, if I want to avoid conflict or avoid intersecting lines, as long as I'm not like disrupting keys or the implied key here that department ID has, I'm going to go ahead and switch manager ID to be here in the bottom and then move this down so that it doesn't cause conflict when I join location ID to the location ID. So it looks like one department can only have one location, unless we might see more. That's an interesting one to investigate, but I would assume that nobody here works from home like Morse 314 or myself do. So this department looks like it only has one location, or at least officially it only has one location. Maybe remote is a department here, or sorry, remote is a location. So that'd be an interesting one to see. Does the employee have a location ID? No, it doesn't. So in order to get an employee's location, I have to go from employees to departments to locations. There's no, let me see if I can stop myself from embarrassing myself. No, there's no way to get an employee's location without going through department first. Okay, so that's a good sign here. And then finally, we have a country ID here from locations going to a countries table. So I'm going to take the the locations country ID and go here. Now, a location, since it has a city and state, can only have one country. So this is a 1, and then one location technically can only have one country. So there'll be a 1-to-1 as well. Now, if this type of stuff confuses you and you're just looking forward, or you're just trying to build your own ERD, one of the things that I can say, again, as a hiring manager that looks at these types of diagrams every now and then when someone submits them, what I can say is, if you're not sure, if you lack the ability, and it's okay if you do, to form these relationships and think about the whole one-to-many, the crow's feet, and you just want to try to see if you can get the diagram out, but not fall into the pitfalls of having to determine these relationships, I would be okay with seeing just the lines. So like, let's say this right here, this line right here, I were to just cut it, it would just be like this. I would be okay seeing that. And I would be more okay with seeing something like this than seeing this version and it's wrong. Because if I see this version and it's wrong, I'm going to start to question you on it, why you chose that approach. Can you prove that that's the case, that it's truly a 1-to-1? And I'm going to get distracted with that. And you don't want that, right? You just want to say, if you just want to show relationships between two tables, it's okay to just do non-crow's feet, just simple lines. And then when you get asked about it, you can just say, I didn't feel like I could make the relationships without seeing the data or something like that. One of my deliverables for an interview I did a while ago was an ERD. And I went ahead and just said for a few tables, I didn't know the relationship. So I just kept it to lines and they appreciated that explanation. So That is one suggestion I would have. Okay, so now, are we done? Are we done with our ERD? I think we're pretty much done. What we're going to do is the same concept that we did yesterday, which is wrap it in a sort of container so it looks like we know what we're doing and it looks professional, I guess you could say. Okay, so what I'm going to do this time is I'm actually going to space things out slightly, like so, and like so. Want to make sure I have plenty of space here. Now, I was mentioning swapping these two, location ID and manager ID, not to cause a conflict. Again, I would not do that with employee ID and job ID, for example, to ease the conflict there, because employee ID is sort of the implied key of this table, and I want to make sure it's at the top. So that's why I did not swap them here. But most other columns, as long as they're not part of some primary key, because you can have a primary key be multiple columns, right? So as long as they're not part of the primary key, I'd say they're pretty much swappable in these diagrams, just to avoid the conflict. Okay, so space that out, space this guy out a little bit, and then move these two tables off to the right slightly. There we are. And now we can draw the rectangles around them. All right, so this shape right here is a rectangle with no border. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it on top of this guy, and then just right click on it and say send it to the back. So now I have my first one, and I kind of want to make sure I avoid lines if I can, like this. And then this can stay sort of off to the side here, this post-it note that I have for myself. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and copy this and paste it right next to it, and I'll just pop it right here next to it again, send it to the back, and now we have our second one. Pretty simple stuff. Now it looks like these are starting to get a little too big for their own good, so I'm gonna sort of do that and shrink it. There we go. So when you have it highlighted, I know it looks like a line and it might interfere, but the reason I gave these, like, basically what I did is I gave it an outside border that is exactly the same as the shape color. So that's a small trick you can do to make sure you have no line, no borders on it. Okay, right click again, send to back, and let's see how this guy looks. Not bad, but I want to go ahead and shrink it a little bit so that countries is okay. And now level 4. And by the way, I know I'm indicating levels here, but you don't really have to do that. Like, that's not something it's not really a thing. These are just sort of implied. I just like to do that so I can make it easier for people to understand the segmentation and sort of the order of importance of these. Maybe I should expand this out a little bit to be roughly the same spacing as the rest of them, right? Like this. Does that look better? Yeah, probably. Okay, cool. So now I'm just going to draw, or I'm going to write headers for each one of these. You can choose what you want to do with the headers. Again, I'm just going to do like level 1. Maybe highlight it as well. Or underline, sorry. Underline and bold. And then here, paste this and say it's level 2. Again, not mandatory. You don't have to do this. Maybe you can here just describe like, oh, this is X other thing. This is primary. These are jobs and departments. These are job history and locations, etc. This is level 3. And am I ever going to get to align it? Yeah, I guess that's aligned. Nope, I did not mean to copy that. And this is level 4. Okay. So we have all of our levels here. Now what I'm going to do is just wrap this. Actually, these two tables aren't aligned, so it looks sort of unprofesh. I guess that's okay. Then we're just going to wrap this whole thing in a big container. So something like this. Expand it out to the whole thing. and then arrange, send to back. And now we have them. If you want to make this a little bit more prominent, you can do like a contrasting color, like red or something like this here. Yellow might be another option, like a softer yellow maybe. Do we have a softer yellow? I don't know. I'm not very good with colors. If you don't know, I am color deficient, so I see all colors. I just don't see particular shades of certain colors. So I like to use something called color.adobe.com, and it gives you great sort of tips on how to use contrasting colors. So if you have a particular color, it tells you like, hey, these are colors that I would suggest based on that color, and you just move this color around down here and it'll tell you different ones. So that's a pretty cool tool that you can use for contrast. It's kind of telling me to maybe use some purple here. I don't know if I'm going to pay attention to that. Let's see what that looks like. Actually, a different shade of blue is not horrible. So let's just keep that with our blue theme. Then let's add my logo, which is this one here. I'm going to expand this out a little bit like that. Add my logo down here and then expand up here a little bit and just copy the title I had up here. Copy that. And this is also a text box conveniently, so I can just paste it right here. So this isn't going to be customer orders. This is going to be human resources, which is HR. And there it is at LiveSQL. And so now we are done. We are absolutely done with our data diagram. Now we're just going to move on. And what are we going to move on to? Well, querying. Because that's the cool thing about MySQL, or sorry, not MySQL, LiveSQL, is the fact that you can actually work with this database. It's not just like something that's available for you there. So what we're going to do is hop back into LiveSQL and we're going to start querying it. But we need some ideas, right? I put some stuff in my investigation, like are there any, how many do employees get a record immediately in job history? What was the other one? Are there any employees that have a different department than their manager? Those are cool questions to answer. And I can even make notes about those, right? So like I can say, find any employees that have no job history records. I can also say, find any employees that have a different department from their manager. But what if you can't think of any of these ideas yourself? What if you're not immediately questioning the data? What if you're not just, what if you want to know what sort of things to look for? Like what can you sort of look for there? Well, it's about that time that we start using ChatGPT. And so Bing Chat, ChatGPT, etc., I would always recommend. What I would do is take the tables that you have, so countries, departments, employees, jobs, job history, location, and regions, and list those out. Okay, bear with me. So I'm going to go ahead and say countries, comma, departments, employees, jobs, job history, locations, and regions. And now we're going to write a prompt for ChatGPT. And I'm no master at prompt writing. Like there's entire communities that are dedicated to coming up with the perfect prompt for ChatGPT. That's not me. I just treat it nicely. I say please, and I try to be as specific and as role play as I can. What do I mean by role play? I try to tell it, you are this, I am this, think of it this way. And I try to be specific so that it doesn't have to imagine things as much. It just takes what I say and expands on it. So let's try writing a prompt. You can say, I am a junior data analyst who has access to a sample HR database. The objects in this database are below. With these objects in mind, can you please, remember the please, robot overlords and such, can you please give me 20 questions that 20 questions about the data that I can answer with SQL. I'm gonna have to start turning on like instrumental here. I'm getting way more like vocal tracks than I want. With these objects in mind, can you please give me 20 questions about the data that I can answer with SQL? Please know, again, please know that I do not want the answers. I only want the questions. And then if you get those questions and you want to know the answer, you can always tell me, can you please give me the answers? And then, or can you give me the answers? You don't have to say please, I guess. But watch, when they come, when the robots come, we'll see who's still alive. It's the guy that said, please know that I don't want answers. I only want the questions. And then you can afterwards ask it for the answers and it'll usually give them to you. Sometimes it may hallucinate a little bit, but it's good for practice. Now, why am I even doing this? There's tons of really cool apps out there. There's Data Lemur, there's LeetCode, HackerRank, all of those. Hey, they're fantastic. Okay. I have absolutely nothing against those. In fact, I use them. One of the challenges or one of the channel point redemptions that you can make here is, I think, a round of LeetCode or something like that. So I do like those tools. I just want you to be able to do this comfortably inside of LiveSQL because it does have a lot of data here. And because with LiveSQL, you can import your own data. In fact, I have a stream about how to import that data, probably coming up. But I just want you to be able to do it with tools like LiveSQL that are supported by all browsers. They're free and it's a real Oracle database. Okay, let's see if this works. And then you can say something like, I'm practicing for an interview, or I just want to build my skills, like whatever you want. But just give it some context as to why you're asking it to do something like this. All right, so let's hop into chat.bing.com. You can do this with ChatGPT, obviously. Okay, and I'm just going to paste it here. As you can see, I'm just going to paste it here. And I'm also just going to paste it in our worksheet that we're building. So let's go back over here. Oh, actually, it is pasted in our worksheet, but I'm going to go ahead and take this and push it to Notepad++ as well. There we go. Just so I can save it for you all. And let's see what it came up with. Oh no, what is it doing? Is it slow today? Of course it's slow today. Chat.bing.com. Let's try that again. Because it seems like it loaded really quickly, but now it's like doing all weird stuff. Oh, no, I copied the whole thing, didn't I? Let's try that again. Let's copy just the prompt. If not, then we can hop over the ChatGPT, but I did this with Bing Chat yesterday and it worked fine. Okay, there we go. I just had to reset it, I guess. Okay, and sure. So here we go. This is a standard interview. Like this is something that I used to send people a couple years ago when I first started sort of either answering questions or giving advice on either Reddit or on dba.stackexchange.com. I used to get a lot of, hey, can you send me a sample interview or something that you would do? And that was obviously way before ChatGPT, so I was handing, these types of questions out. But now, it doesn't matter what data set you have. And I actually just answered a question this morning on Reddit where someone was trying to do like a Pokemon data set. And I basically said, this is what ChatGPT is really good at, right? You want to get ideas for Power BI reports or you want to get ideas for SQL exercises. ChatGPT is really good at it. AI in general, is really good at it. I don't care if you prefer ChatGPT or Google's flavor of it or Bing Chat, really whatever. It's AI is very good at this. Okay, so we have our 20 questions. How many employees are there in each department? What's the average salary of employees? Which employees have been with the company the longest? All these are good questions. And you can sort of take a pause here and go, okay, are these questions that I'm going to be comfortable answering? Are these a bit below what I consider myself to my skill set to be? Because I've not to offend anyone, but I've interviewed people where I ask them, out of 10, what would you rate yourself in SQL? They answer 8. And then I give them questions like this and they're flustered. So this is a chance for you not to be judged by anyone except for the robot overlords, and just say, hey, these questions are a little bit too advanced, or these questions are a little bit too weak. I need better ones. So nobody's going to see this. You can do whatever you feel is best, but just try to be honest with yourself so you can grow, right? And you can advance in your career. If you're not honest with yourself, it's just not going to help you. So let's copy these, but then let's take a second to ask it for more advanced questions as well. So here's the first answer. And let's close that comment. There we go. And now let's go back to it and say, these questions are a little bit too easy. These questions are a bit too easy. Can you give me 20 harder ones? And it gives you 20 more, slightly more advanced. And as an expert, you may go in and say, that's not actually advanced. That's cool, man. We're okay. It's trying its best. And just like my car tries its best when it drives itself, it's like a 15-year-old that just got its permit trying to navigate the roads. This thing's just trying its best. So take the ones that you like. You don't have to do all 20. Take the ones that you think are advanced enough for you or something like that, and then just do that. So here we have, what is the percentage increase from the average salary of employees who have been promoted compared to those who haven't? That's a pretty advanced one. Identify the top 5 departments with the highest employee turnover rates. High turnover is subjective, so I don't know about that. Find the top 3 job roles with the highest average salary increase over the past 3 years. Like this stuff is more analytical as well, right? So take that how you will. I'm gonna go ahead and copy these as well, put them over in our worksheet, and just call this the advanced section. Advanced questions, like that. Ooh, that's not how you do that. Open the comment up, paste, and close it back. All right, cool. So let's take a crack at trying to answer these. All right, first, how many employees are there in each department? This seems like a simple one, really, right? But I'm here to tell you it's a bit more complex than it may be. So normally I would start with departments here and say, for each department, how many employees do I have? But there's also the approach that you can take with like job history and try to see if you can just do employee ID, or for each, grouping by the department ID, how many employee IDs do I have? That's another way around it, but that only works if there's always a record for job history, even when the person starts, which is something we discussed earlier. So I would probably in this one start with departments and then join back to employees, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to go ahead and select all the unique departments that we have in our system. So I'll say select, and you're going to hate me for this, but star from HR.departments. And it looks like I forgot to close this comment. There we go. Select star from HR departments. And just because I don't know how many records are in this table, I'm just going to say where row num is less than 100, or less than or equal to 100. Now, For those of you who are new to Oracle, I would use this to just filter on the top 100 records. If you're from SQL Server land, I think Postgres uses filter 100 or something like that. That's what we're doing here with RONUM in Oracle, just filtering the top 100 just because I don't know how many there are. Now, if I scroll down here, I can see that there are only 27 departments, and that's very good. So I don't really need this where clause anymore, just because it allows you to bring in the first 27 without issue. BKJ133, sorry I missed that, says I thought this goes in your permanent file. Which ones? All of them? Or are you just making a joke about my permanent record? Let me see. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my permanent file as well. I'm gonna leave it there, but I like to copy my questions into my SQL worksheet so I can just go ahead and do one by one inside the actual worksheet. So hopefully that answers the question, unless it was a joke, and I apologize if I missed it. Nothing goes over my head, but also that probably went over my head, and my screen froze, so I didn't even see your chat message there. Sorry. Okay, so we're gonna select everything from departments, and here it is: department ID and department name. Now all I need are unique departments, so I'm just gonna say select distinct department ID. BKJ133 says, yes, I'm joking about practicing with AI. Yes, it does go on your permanent file, like on its memory for AI. Absolutely. That's why I always say please, but I think you can tell it like, hey, erase this from memory, and then it'll like give you that little message of memory updated. Like, yeah, I totally erased this from memory. Don't worry. I'm not storing this and sharing it with, the rest of the internet. I'm pretty sure it does, even if we ask it not to. Okay, department ID and department name. How are we doing on add time? Make sure no one misses anything. Okay, 20 minutes before add, so we're good. Okay, department ID and department name, we can select distinct. Now, there may be some like person who's been in your team for 25 years and they say never do distinct, only group by, and if that's what they want, then that's absolutely fine. You can just do group by, department ID and department name. And there we go. Now, again, to query, all I'm doing is just holding down Control and Enter. I also want to make sure I highlight only the query that I want to run. Otherwise, it may give me errors. And with Oracle in general, like SQL Developer and Toad, normally when you run two queries like this, it's not going to spit it out. In this case, all it's doing is just giving me the results from the first query and completely ignoring the second query, unless it's somewhere that I don't see it. But I'm pretty sure it's just ignoring the second query. So just make sure that when you're working here that you always highlight the query that you want and run it. Maybe it works like the other SQL developer, where if I have my cursor here, it will run just that query. So let's see what happens there, because I actually haven't explored that yet. Yeah, okay. So it'll also, if you look, it automatically highlighted the query that my cursor was on. So that's another one that you can try to use like this. So it looks like it highlighted. So if you want to run a query, you can either highlight it or just put your cursor on that particular query and it'll run it for you. I wonder what happens if I just hit Control Enter now. Which one does it run? It looks like it runs the one below. Cool. Does that matter? Okay. Okay, so then now that we have all of our departments, we need to see how many employees are in each department. And I guess it's a good thing that, the DBA that's been there for 20 years told us never use distinct, only use group by, because we actually do need a group by. We need a group by department ID and department name and see how many matches we got from our employees table. So what I'm going to do is actually just join this. I'm going to left join to hr.employees. And why am I left joining? Because there may be an occasion where there is a department that has 0 employees and I still want to return that department. I just want to return 0 for it. Okay, HR.employees. On the department ID, right? On the department ID equals the department ID. So what I need to do is give each table an alias. So I'm going to give departments a D. Now, if you're from SQL Server land or any other database platform that allows this, you're maybe used to using as D. In Oracle, you're not doing that. You're just going to give the alias without putting as. You can, however, do it at the column level. So at the column level, you can use as. At the table level, you cannot. Okay, and here employees is going to be E. So now, okay, what did it do there? Now my on clause is going to be on D.department ID equals E.department ID. And now that we have our join, what I can do is I can count the E.employee ID as number of employees. Now, whether you choose to use underscores to separate or Pascal to separate, just know that in Oracle land, let's go ahead and run this query. In Oracle land, it's probably going to capitalize everything anyway. So you'll just be shouting at the database platform. Okay, so here it's telling me, hey, this column is ambiguous. It's because department ID exists in both departments and employees. So I'm just going to make sure that I use D.department ID and D.department name. And I'm going to also use them in the group by D.department ID, D.department name. Let's try that again. And now you can see what I said earlier about number of employees. See how I use Pascal here? It's still shouted back at me. There are certain settings that you can turn on within SQL Developer or whatever integrated development environment, IDE, that you use. Just know that Oracle in general, all the tools tend to yell back at you. All right, so let's format this a little bit, and I'm curious to use the formatter here. Let's see what happens when I use the formatter. That's not terrible. I just don't think from needs to be on a separate line, and I do think the on clause needs to be on a separate line. It's up to you and how your team does their coding standards and how their organization is. If you are a manager or a leader amongst the data folks and you want to make your team stick to a particular standard, I would recommend tools like Redgate's SQL Prompt, which has the formatter there available. There's also free extensions that you can download for most IDEs, but I try not to make my teams stick to a particular coding standard unless I have a tool that allows them to do it easily. What do I mean by that? Well, if I'm going to say, hey, here's the standard you need to use, I'm going to make sure that I have SQL Prompt and that I've tuned it to my liking. And then I'll share that with them and say, just use this when you're done building the query, use the formatter, and it'll auto format it to my liking. What I do have them stick to is consistency. For example, if you're working in SQL Server and you like to put square brackets around your columns, I better see all of your columns, all of your tables with square brackets or none of them. But I do not want to see a mix of those two. That is the only thing that will bother me, because if I have to replace something, I have to replace all like 5 different versions of it that you have. The one thing I'm like a bit of a stickler about is using single quotes as aliases, like instead of as and then brackets around columns, using single quotes around columns and double quotes in Oracle as well. I'm not a huge fan of that. The only time I've seen anyone ever need double quotes is when they have spaces in their columns or spaces in their objects, and it's like, oh, and we're down a bad road if you do that. So yeah, anyway. All right, so here we have per department. Man, I got off track there, didn't I? The question is, how many employees are there in each department? Here we go. Each department has this many employees. Are there any with 0? Yes, there are. And remember when I said I wanted to use left join and not inner? What's going to happen? treasury, corporate tax. How many departments do we have here? 27, right? Let's quickly change this to inner. Now we have 11 departments. So if you're a data analyst and you come all proud with a report to your manager saying, look, I got the data for all 11 departments and how many employees each have, they're going to go, pretty sure there's 27 departments. And so I would always start with a left join here from whichever table you're looking at, because they will want to know operations has 0, IT support has 0, dollars to donuts, they're going to want to know that. So I would always start with a left join, and if you want to make it an inner, that's fine. If you're doing joins just to filter records, that's a different avenue as well. Eric Darling actually just released a fantastic video series on how to write proper SQL that talks some about that too, using joins as filters when you could use exist, for example, which is way better. That's one of the things that that you might want to look at. Okay, so let's move on to the next query. Or should we take an ad break? Let me see. I just want to make sure no one misses anything. No, we can jump into one more query, I think, as long as I don't take 20 minutes to explain that one query. Okay, what is the average salary of employees in each job role? In each job role. Okay, so let's take a look at all the different jobs there are, right? Select star from hr.jobs where row num is less than or equal to 100. And what do we get? How many jobs do we get? 19? That's it? That's the only... Oh, wow. I mean, cool, I guess. There's only 19 jobs. Okay. Okay. That's cool, I guess. Okay, so here we're just gonna say let's just do like a distinct, no, let's do a group by job ID and job title. I don't think we have to join anywhere. What is the average salary of employees in each job role? So there's a couple different ways I guess you can do this, right? There's no salary, I think, in employees, is there? Oh, there is a salary. Ooh, oh wow, this is an interesting one. Okay, so for each job, we have to see all of the different salary records there are for it, and then take an average of those for each job. Cool. Let's see if we can set that up. So for each job title, we're going to join that with the employees table. We're going to left join over to hr.employees. And technically here, I would only want to see ones where there are employees for the job. So let me make sure I have this right. For jobs, I want the average salary. This is min and max salary. So technically speaking, I could just say, hey, add min and max salary and take the average of that if I wanted the simple version of this. So let's do that really quick first. And maybe we can see how much it differs. So I would say min salary plus max salary, and then take the average of that. AVG of min salary plus max salary. Remove the join here, and then group by the job ID and job title. Group by this, remove this where clause because we don't actually need it. And then let's see what this gives us as AVG salary. This is basically like if they want a directional view on what this would be, then that's the only time I would say is needed. What's it yelling at us about? Job ID. Oh, here, by job ID. There we go. All right, so we have the job ID, the job title, and then we have the average salary, which is just the min and max salary added together and then divided by 2. That's what it looks like. But we want to see if we can tackle the harder one, which is actually look at each employee's salary, group them by the job, and then what we can do is find out. So I have an idea, and that idea is first removing this where clause because we don't need it. So for each job ID and job title, I'm going to left join to HR.employees, and then I'm going to say on. So this is jobs as J, employees as E, and then join on J dot job ID. Job ID equals E dot job ID. I'm pretty sure that's the relationships. Let's check it. Job ID on job ID. Yep. Okay. Now I'm going to count the number of distinct E dot employee ID as num employees, and then group by the job ID and the job title. Group by job ID and the job title. Column ambiguously defined. That means the job ID, because it's in both. So I'm going to say j.job ID, j.job title, not k. And I still did it again. J dot. There we go. And copy this, put it in the group by, maybe format it because we're good noodles, and then get mad at it because it formatted not to my liking. On some of these tools, you can actually customize the way you format without needing a special tool like Redgate SQL Prompt, but I still really like Redgate SQL Prompt, so that's why I use it. Ooh, I ran both of these queries when I only needed to run this one. Okay, so here we have the number of employees that it found for each job. And then we can say, I want the sum. Oh, you see how it used commas at the end. Some people love commas at the end. Some people love commas at the beginning. I am a fan of commas before, but some people have called that code not worthy of production, which I don't take any offense to. It's just my style. Some people like it more than others. Sum of salary, right? Sum of salary as, I'll just say sum salary. And what this does is adds up every single employee salary for each job title. So you can see we have 19 job titles here in the left join. And here we have only one employee. So you can guess that the average is just going to be 8,300. For this one though, the total is 34,000. So the average you can guess is going to be 34,000 divided by 2 because there's 4. Or sorry, divided by 2 because there's 2 employees. It's going to be 17,000. This one is divided by 5. So the accountants, the average salary is going to be this divided by this. So let's just go ahead and do that. I'm a bit finicky about doing math on columns that have been joined as I'm joining them. I just have this weird thing about them. So what I prefer to do is actually turn this into, like, if I need to, a view, but if I'm just working in SQL Server, and this is a bit more of an intermediate concept, I use CTEs, or common table expressions. So here I would say with CTE underscore, and I'll try to name this so that I can see it in the execution plan if it comes out, with CTE jobs salaries as this query. So we're basically making like a tiny view without deploying it as a view. Now I can just select star from CTE jobs salaries. And I know selecting star and all that, that's fine. Don't do it, kids. Don't try this at home. I'm gonna go ahead and just select star from this table like this. And now I'm working with the columns themselves. So now instead of referring to these as having to do the math of sum salary divided by count of employee ID or count distinct of employee ID, now what I do instead is I just refer to these by their real names or by their alias names. So job ID, job title, num employees, and some salary. Now I can just refer to them that way instead. Does this let me format it? Yeah, it does. Okay, cool. So now I can do that. Let me see if I can shrink this a little bit so we can see everything. And there we go. Oh man, are we getting close to an ad break? Yeah, we probably are. Oh, which is just in time. Okay, so sum salary divided by number of employees. Now I can just do that math right here instead. So I can say sum salary divided by num employees. If I learn how to spell employees, I would be good. And I can say that is as AVG salary. And again, you can put as in the column, you can't do it to the tables. All right, so did that work? Yep, there we go. When we say 1700 for this one, the math pretty much checks out. You could also just do this in Excel, right? You don't have to do it here. But there we go. Now we have the average salary for each job title. Okay, so I think, again, it's about time that it's going to ask me for, yep, it's going to ask me for an ad. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. We're going to play GeoGuessr, and then when we come back, we will keep exploring. We'll keep exploring this data. All right, so I'll see you soon. And if you're subscribed again, we're just going to go play GeoGuessr now. All right, let's continue here. And again, see if I don't embarrass myself. Let's see. Historical buildings or towers. I'm going to try historical buildings. Just, oh God, I mean, it looks cool. It reminds me of like something I saw in Chicago once, but that's not Chicago. This is a Hilux. I think that's a Toyota Hilux police car. That's pretty cool. So we're either in Asia or South America. I think that's the only place that the Hilux is at. This is a flag. No idea what flag it is. It's just white. I can't read that. Something about brewers, like a beer brewer. This is like, man, this brings back memories from childhood of people just sitting under trees, eating stuff. I don't know what this is. It's a person on a horse. So this building's definitely historical. If that was all, then I'd win. This gives me Caribbean vibes, or it's not Jamaica. People are driving on the right, or like the steering wheel's on the left side. So I know it's not Jamaica. Sort of giving me, I know there's like people that can tell, like Rainbow can tell like just by the lamppost. I'm not that person. I'm really terrible. He's amazing and I love watching his videos, but I'm not that person. So I'm just gonna go with somewhere in the Caribbean, or like somewhere Central America. I don't know if Venezuela. No, it's too like hustling and bustling to be Caracas, I think. Or Caracas is too hustling and bustling. I want to go with somewhere here in the Caribbean, but I'm just gonna go, I don't know. Man, I'm gonna go with somewhere in Trinidad. It's probably horrible. It's probably in Asia. Nope, it's okay. African. Okay, what is this? Nigeria? Is that Lagos? Lagos, Nigeria. Yeah, I'm just terrible at this game. If you haven't noticed, that's all it is. Super. It was giving strong Caribbean vibes, and I guess that would as well. I don't know. I'm just gonna stop talking before I embarrass myself more. Historical buildings again. This is definitely historical, and I want to say is that a Colombian flag? Is that a Colombian flag? Is there any Spanish here that would indicate that this is Colombia? Soy su voz. That's Spanish. Justicia en caso de abuso. Okay. Element Future is great to see you. Soy su voz is definitely this gotta be Colombia. República de Colombia, the Congress building. Okay, Congreso de la República de Colombia is Congress building in somewhere in Colombia. I don't know if Cartagena, I don't know if Medellin, because sometimes the Congress buildings are outside of the capital as well. Let me see if I can find it. Senado de la República, the Senate. Transparencia. Okay, it's definitely Colombia. Element Future says Bogota. Let's see if it's let's take a gamble. Let's take a gamble. That's where I had it, I guess. So let me just dive in there and see if I can find like a historical building there. Jardín Botánico, that's the Botanical Gardens. Centro Comercial, Museo Nacional, Ciudad Bolívar. Let's try to. Can we go? We must go deeper. Gran Plaza. So maybe it's that plaza. I don't know. Nope, we're on the other side of the city, but hey, I'll take it. 9 kilometers, that's pretty good. I think we're back. I think we're back from ads. Let's just play one more with the folks that just came back from ads. I'll do beaches because I should have chosen stadiums, because stadiums are much easier because they usually have team logos. So I am dumb, but I will gladly try this out. I am getting strong Miami vibes, but it could also be like Venice Beach area, can't it? I'm getting some strong like South Florida vibes right here though, but I see front plates, so it's definitely not South Florida unless it's like visitors, because Florida doesn't have license plates in the front. But bicycles, I'm okay. I think I'm gonna go LA area. I think I'm gonna go like Venice Beach. Is Venice Beach in LA? I don't even know. I think so. Let's go LA. There's Long Beach. This is not Long Beach. I've been to Long Beach, or I don't know if enough. I'm just like Manhattan Beach. Yeah, that. I'm gonna go with Venice Beach, and it's probably Miami, because of course it would be Miami Beach, and embarrass myself as a Floridian. Of course it's Miami Beach. It's that one car with the front license plate that got me, because I want to say that I've like been to that exact spot. I live not very close to it, but close enough where I've visited that beach very or not just that beach, but that area so long. Element Future says palm trees. Yeah, but palm trees could be in both places, in LA and also in Miami. But I was getting those strong Miami vibes, and I messed up. I apologize to my fellow Floridians. I have done you dirty. All right, so on that note, let's go back to work so I can sort of maybe redeem myself here. BKJ133 says shame. Yeah, I'll take it. Element Future says I've never been to the States, so that was a wild guess. Yeah, as someone who's grown up here, basically, I feel lots of shame right now. But that goes to show. You should always go with your instinct unless you're playing GeoGuessr, and then maybe don't. I don't know where I was going with that. Okay. So, which employees have been with the company for the longest? And for those of you who may have joined recently or just joined or what have you, what we've done today is basically use LiveSQL from Oracle. So I'm going to pop open the link again. LiveSQL in the chat right here, right there. You should see a link to livesql.oracle.com. It's a free service directly from Oracle that allows you to access their database in the cloud on your browser. 0 installs, 0 downloads. It's just there on your browser. It works on your iPad if that's what you want to use. And it allows you to query existing data or load your own data into tables, create views, stored procedures, anything you want just to test out and develop on Oracle. I always recommend it to people who are just coming into the data space if they want to practice their SQL. Yes, there's lots of cool tools out there like LeetCode, HackerRank, Data Lemur. They're all fantastic. I have zero against them. For me, I'm just trying to take sort of a non-biased approach. And I'm definitely non-biased because I always talk about how expensive Oracle is. So if anything, me promoting this product, even though I'm not getting a dime from Oracle, I'm just a satisfied customer, if you can call me that, because again, I've never paid for it. Since 2017 or so, I've been using this platform, and it is really great for students who are low on budget, people who are just trying to see whether or not they like SQL without having to do all these crazy installs. Because one of the things that, just to get off topic here, one of the things that I see on Reddit a lot is people who are starting to break into data. They're interested about data, and the first thing they post is an installation error for SQL Server or Oracle or MySQL or something. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, it's so like, I'm so sorry that your first venture in this is having to install a database platform. Why? Because I didn't even start installing database platforms in my professional career until I was like a mid-level to senior data analyst trying to explore the realm of a DBA. I didn't even start installing until then. And by the time I got there, I was really interested in installations and how the inner workings, trying to get my fingers dirty in the database platform. I didn't even think about installation of SQL Server or Oracle or anything until I was interested in it. So for students having to face that from the very beginning, oh man, that's tough. So I always try to give them like an alternative, like, hey, did you know there's a platform here that you don't have to worry about any sort of installation. You don't have to administer it. It's just there. It just works. You just turn it on and you start querying. If I can offer that, like literally that's what this video is for. If you're watching this on YouTube after we've done it, that's the purpose of this, is to show you how to use it, to show you a small data project with data that already exists. You don't even have to worry about finding data. It's already here. But if you do want to find data and upload it, you're more than welcome to using LiveSQL. That was a lot. I know, that was a lot. So anyway, let's continue. We'll do a couple more questions, and then I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we've been here for 2 hours already. I'm happy to take any questions. If anyone has any sort of questions, please feel free. I don't want to, just talk your ear off and do stuff that's boring. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Okay, so let's go with which employees have been with the company the longest. That seems pretty straightforward, right? We just go to the ERD and we find the job history. And we say, order the job history by descending, and then go look at the employee for those, right? So I don't want to start with employees. That's a waste of efficiency, in my opinion. I'd rather start with what table I'm going to apply the first where clause on and use that as my base so that I'm not querying all employees just to see their job history. Like, I really just don't care. What I want to do is make sure that I'm pulling the slimmest data set possible and expanding from there. All right, so let's query job history. And I already thought of something that'll make this a little bit more tricky than it seems. So let's go select star from hr.jobhistory. I'll already name this JH just to get things going here. Okay, so now we have the start date and the end date, and let's see if we can find, wait, ten? 10? 10. 10 records. I mean, where where row num is less than or equal to 100. 10 records? What does this tell me? This tells me that you only get a record in the job history table when you leave or when you go to another position. Because why? How many jobs are there? How many employees are there? Select count star, or count star from HR.employees. And this is our chance to find something out that I've been wondering as well. Here's how many records there are in employees, 107. So again, if there were history records made for every single employee as soon as they start, then we would have at least 107 records here in the history table. But the fact that we only have 10 means we only use the history table for change tracking. Not only that, I'm sort of curious to see if count distinct of employee ID as unique employees is the same as the count of overall records in the table. And it is. So what does that tell me? That tells me that each employee only has one employee ID, and that for regardless of if you have let's go back and look at this. If you're looking at employees and you're saying, oh well, each employee ID for each job they might have one record. That's just not the case. One employee ID is going to have one record, and that's it in employees. Now, job history is an interesting one because job history only has 10 records in it, which means, again, it's only when the employees change something about the employee ID or the job ID or the department that they're in that we enter a record into job history. So this data warehouse is not a slow moving dimension. This is a live table here that also serves as a history table. So just keep that in mind if you're searching for history. Job history might not be the best solution here. That's really weird. Is there a start date here? Hire date. Yep. So we just go by the hire date of the employee. We don't even need job history for this. Or is that is that the first one? Is hire date? This is where it gets a little bit weird, because does hire date mean about the employee or the particular job that they run? Or like the particular job? Let's try to keep it simple. We're junior analysts. So we'll just say for each employee, let's order by the hire date and find it. There's all sorts of complicated ways, like if they have a job history record, then use that in place of their hire date, all that sort of stuff. You're more than welcome to go that route, but I'm just going to keep it simple for this because I don't want to complicate things. So let's just go ahead and select. This is going to be a much simpler, I guess, now, just because I'm choosing to make it simple. I don't want to complicate things. Code Cannon 4. Thank you very much for the follow. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great holiday so far, and the rest of your holidays are good as well. Okay, so HR.employees. We take just everything from employees. We've counted how many of them. There's 107 records, so I'm okay with the select star here. If it were more, I wouldn't be. I'm gonna hit format, and it doesn't expand my data, or it doesn't expand my columns. There's other tools that do, so I'm just gonna have to write it myself. So we'll take the employee ID. The reality is we don't need the rest. We'll take the first name, last name. I don't care about their email, and their hire date. Maybe I don't care about their job ID. The question is which employees have been with the company the longest. I'll just take some, very simple stuff. So here I'm taking that, and then I'm just going to do a quick order by hire date. And then it's implied that it's in ascending order, but you can also say ascending if you want. So there we go. Our oldest employee has been with us since January 13th, 2011. That's it. And if you want more information about this employee, of course, you can join to job, you can join to department, all that good stuff, but that's it. We're good here. We can stop with this one. All right, it's time to copy over to Notepad++ just to make sure I preserve all of this stuff. And again, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them as I go through. Maybe do two more of these, and then we'll call it a day. How many employees are in each country? Oh, that's an interesting one. Again, here, because it says each country, I'm going to start with countries. I'm going to start with countries, and then I will work towards everything else. This is one where we have to traverse everything, basically. Employee does not have country in it. So we have to traverse 3 levels back. We have to start with country and then go to locations, departments, and employees. Why? Because if we don't start with countries, we'll never get the countries that have 0. And in my experience, people who are asking for this data would much rather see the countries that have 0 than have to ask, why isn't this country listed? So it could be that we only store the countries that we have employees in our database. That could very well be it, and we'll find out, right? If there's not 256 something entries in countries, then we'll know that we only store the countries we care about, kind of thing. So let's find out how that is and work our way back towards employees. I opened the wrong window. There we go. This one. Okay. So let's give it a shot. Lots of joins here. Lots of joins from what I can tell. Okay, let's give it a try. We're gonna select star from countries. And we are going to do a row num where row num is less than or equal to 100. Again, if you're coming from SQL Server land, row num less than anything just means top, whatever that is, to a certain extent. And I actually have a blog post about the difference between row num and top and all that stuff, and why top in Oracle doesn't really work the same way it would in SQL Server. That's on my website. So it's https sqldevdba.com. You're more than welcome to explore that one. Now, I think Morse314 corrected me last time. I think that may have been my first blog post ever, back when I was very frustrated with both systems. I'm still am, but I used to too. Countries we have here are how many records? 25. So it looks like we just have the countries that we have employees in here. That's what it seems like to me. Okay, great. So that means we can start joining all the way back to employees. So let's left join. And why left join? Again, because I want the countries regardless of whether or not we have employees in them. So left join to locations on country ID equals country ID. hr.locations. I'll name this one L. I'll name this one C. Again, in Oracle, you cannot do as for your tables. So as c.country ID equals l.country ID. And now you're going to start to see some interesting stuff. First, I want to make sure that I only have the columns I absolutely need. So I'm going to say c.country ID. If you leave star there, it'll give you all columns from all tables. And I want to make sure I could control at least something here. We'll say country name. And we'll say region ID. But do we really need region? I really don't think so. And speaking of region, did I like miss that table? Is it like somewhere where I did miss that table? Look at that. Nobody told me anything. You guys are terrible. I would have failed my interview. I would have failed my interview. You all are the worst. No, I'm just kidding. It's my fault, right? I'm the one that's supposed to be the professional. All right, so I'm just going to copy this and put it right next to it. I'll copy level 4 and make this level 5. And then I'll take regions and just slam it around here. There we go. So now we have regions with us as well. And now what we're going to do is take the region ID. One country can only belong to one region. It can't be in multiple, or at least I hope not. If one country can belong to multiple regions, then the data person at this organization might need some help. 1, 2, 1. There we are. All right, so now we have actually 5 levels in our diagram. That's pretty interesting, actually. Okay, so let's give it a shot. Region, we just really don't need. You can have it for informational purposes if you want, so that in like your data analysis or even your visualizations, you can tell. You can like organize by region and then organize by country under that if you so desire. So let's give it a shot. What we're going to do is left join out to, from locations out to departments, because that's the only way we can really get to employees. But shouldn't we take a break here and just confirm that we got everything we needed here? So let's do locations, L dot. Okay, if you need to see the columns, you can see them right here on the left. Locations, without having to go back to the diagram. We have a location ID, we have a street address. Okay, so this is every single person's location. Or if 2 people work at the same exact location, then that might be why. We'll at least bring the location ID, I guess. Location ID. And then maybe the city and the state, province. L dot state province. And let's see what that looks like. That's not how you spell province, is it? Province. Okay, let's see what that looks like at least. We'll format this code so it's not looking terrible. Format it like that too, because I don't want any wasted space. And let's see what we look like. We have 25 countries right now, but that's going to probably increase pretty dramatically now. Well, maybe not pretty dramatically, but look, it's weird. Zambia doesn't even have any records. So these were like countries where people may have been at some point, or there is some presence, but now there isn't. Maybe that's where our 10 job history people are, or were. Is there any other connection to locations? Job title? No. There's no other connection to locations. So that means that departments is our only way. Countries to locations. Oh, there aren't even location records for this country. For some of these countries. So it's like this connection here is the one that sometimes brings nothing. That's really, really interesting. I wonder why those countries are there in the first place. Maybe that's something to ask your data team, or that's something to ask the application team if you're just the data person that's in charge of them. But it looks like we have Argentina, we have Egypt, Malaysia, all with no locations there. So pretty interesting. Pretty interesting stuff. Okay, so let's go from locations over to departments. Left join hr.departments. And we are going to say on, we have to name departments D on L dot department ID? No, L dot location ID equals D dot location ID. So we're using location ID to traverse right here, this link right here. From locations to departments using the location ID. Okay, great. Now let's see if the department, we can access it. So we'll say D dot department ID and D dot department name. And let's see if we can find those. That's not how you spell department. So that might be interesting. And that's also not how you spell department. There we go. Okay, so now we have our departments and we grew to 54. So out of 34 possible locations, there's now 54 records. So there's some departments that have, there's some locations that have multiple departments, and that's interesting as well. That's interesting as well. Okay, cool. So now we have some locations, and we know that our joins work because we can see data all the way through, even though we did left join. Okay, so finally, from departments, we're gonna go to employees right here. So let's do that. Left join hr.employees as E on d.department ID equals e.department ID. And so now we're going to have one record for each employee. So it's d.employee ID and d.employee name. Let's see what that looks like. Is that first name? Yeah, it's first name. First name, last name. First name and d.last. Okay, my computer froze. Nope, it didn't. I just clicked off d.last name. And let's see what that looks like. Now, if you are really, oh, it's not D, it's E. It's e.employee ID, e.first name, e.last name. There we go. Okay, so if you want to just see first name and last name together in Oracle, in SQL Server land, you just do a plus or you just do a concat. In Oracle, we would just take e.first name and then two vertical vars with a space and e.last name as full name. And hopefully that works if I remember that right. No? It's not liking it? Did I just break something? Let me just copy all the text. Make sure I didn't break anything. Seems like I broke something though. E.first name. Oh, it's because of I was missing an underscore. I was wondering why this looked a little weird. But yeah, in Oracle, to concatenate two strings, instead of doing the plus like you would in SQL Server or many other ones, I think concat exists in Oracle. I'm fairly sure it does. But if you want to concatenate using the plus method, just use two vertical bars. That's how you would do it. I'm sure there's better methods, again, like that, concatenate. But yeah, this is how you would do it. So you have that. No, so now I have a full listing of each employee, their department, and their country. So now I have sort of two paths that I can take because, again, the question was how many employees per country. So I have two paths. Number one, I can take this exact query and just eliminate everything except the country and the country name and just do a count distinct of employee IDs. But I can also take another path. Let's take that first path first, and then we'll take the other path, which is the path that I prefer. Okay, so first here we have, again, this query here. I'm just going to copy it and bring it down. And then I'm just going to remove everything except the employee ID. Maybe the department ID as well. Yeah, okay. And I'm just going to keep these. So country ID, country name, location ID, department ID, employee ID. And what I would do here is I would actually take country ID and country name would be my primary columns. I would add those to the group by like this. And then I would say count everything else. So count distinct locations as locations, count distinct departments as departments, and count distinct employees. Count distinct employee ID as employees. Again, this is not my preferred method, but just because it gets a little weird and I'm not able to see the specifics of it as much. So like I have to depend on like joins, not joining multiples and all that other stuff. So I don't prefer to do it this way, but it is certainly possible. As you see, you can see for each country the number of locations it has, the number of departments it has, and the number of employees. But my preferred method is actually just to take this data as well over here and put it into a CTE. So with CTE employee full, we'll call it employee full. And again, as like if I saw this approach, I would be pleased that the person was more sort of conscious about it. But the reality is either one of them works and they probably yield the same exact results. So I'll say as this, I can say select, I'm just going to select the country ID, country name, pretty much the same as I did before. And then I'll say count distinct d.department ID as departments. Oh no, not d.department ID, just department ID. That's the cool thing about using CTEs, is now you can refer to them as just plain columns and you don't have to do this whole thing. I can even say count the number of full names now because I can refer to it as its alias without having to do this function again. So sometimes just for organizational purposes, I'll prefer it. Now I say, oh, I already said count department ID. I'm going to also count location ID as locations. And it looks like I got those two mixed up. Location is supposed to go here, departments, and employees as employee. Now the question would be, and I'll say from CTE underscore whatever I named it up here. There we go. Question is, we have 423, 68, 32, 35. Does it give us the same data? Nope. Because I didn't group by the country ID and the country name like I was supposed to, like a good noodle. Group by this. Now I completely forgot what the original one was, but luckily we can see 423, 68, 32, 35. Same, I think, what we got here. 423, 68, 32, 35. Okay. So it looks like we got the same result. I would prefer this method more just because I can like verify easily whether or not this data is here. So if you look, now I can see the full data set, and this is just a summary of that data set. Whereas with this one, I can't really expand very much. It's still valid. As you can see, we got the same results, but I can't really expand without putting in more work here. Okay, so that's really all I wanted to cover. This ERD is now finished. I'm going to leave this area here as well. I'm just going to export this out to a PDF. I'll share it on my Google Drive, and that Google Drive will be available on the YouTube version of this video. If you want it in advance, just let me know. Send an email or a contact form to sqltufdba.com, and I'll happily send it over to you. Otherwise, it's just going to be in the description. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's already there, so you don't have to worry. But if you're one of the folks that was watching on Twitch, first of all, thank you so much for your continued support for what I do here. It's great to have all of you here. It's great to have you YouTubers as well. You're fantastic. Hop over to Twitch if you want some sort of interaction while I'm doing this and you want to ask some questions while I'm doing this and filming this, because I'd be happy to answer any of them there. But I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone. The growth on this channel has been way more than I ever anticipated this year. And since this is probably one of my last streams for the year, I'm just really thankful, really happy, and I'm really looking forward to what we'll be able to accomplish in the new year. But this is right here for you. If you so desire, I'm going to also copy everything that was in these queries over to Notepad++. So you will have full access to all of the queries that we were using today. I'm just going to put in some like breaks so that you can sort of see them as you go. But yeah, I think we're just about done here. Let me see if there's anyone that we can maybe raid if they happen to be on. Let's see. If anyone has ideas for raids, I'm happy to hear those as well. Let's see. Anyone in our area that we can raid? We have a few Spanish folks that I'd normally be able to raid. Adam Learns Live is on, and he's fantastic, so I'm happy to raid him. But I think it's just a few of us, and I don't know if he's accepting raids right now as well. So let's see if I can. No, I don't want to go in with just 2 or 3 folks. If y'all see anyone else out there that you want to, I think we can do that as well. But I want to make sure I'm raiding more than a few folks. But it's all right, I guess. Okay, so what I can leave you with is I'll head over to GatoBeats. They just walk around the city. They're like a slow moving channel. They just walk around the city and have lo-fi music. So if you want a little bit of background music, that's where we will head over. So I will create that raid now. Let's see if they're around. Thank you very much for following. GPRABESH3. I don't want to butcher your name. GP Rabesh, maybe? Or G Prabesh. Thank you so much for following. Hope you're having a good holiday so far and continue to have one. All right, let's head over to GatoBeats, start the raid, and thank you again, all of you. I hope you have a wonderful new year. If I don't stream again, if I do, then hopefully see you next time. Have a great one.